You can ask that question when we start.
Who gets calls from the CEO, president?
We were already planning.
I wonder, what is it? Okay. When everybody got all quiet, I must have seen it. Huh? That clock's right on time.
Let us show you the way.
Okay, folks, we're getting pretty close to 5 o'clock here, so I want to go ahead and lay down what our plans are tonight. We want the presentation to begin promptly at 5. We know a lot of people are interested in something that starts at 7. So we're gonna have a 90-minute meeting. We'll have a short presentation that explains our approach to this rate adjustment. And we will conclude at 6:30. We're going to try and follow City Council's public comment format. So if you are going to make a line of comments, we ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. We also ask that you step to the mic to make your comments and ask questions. We are Facebook Live. That's a first time for us, but that's so that as many people possible have the opportunity to see this presentation, which again, you will have other opportunities at the City Council meeting this Thursday night, again at a work session on the 19th, and then we hope Council will make a decision on this proposal at their meeting on January the 26th. Before we get started, there were quite a few comments made on our reminder post on Facebook that were consistently made that I wish to respond to at this time. A lot of comments were made about the choice of tonight. This meeting was scheduled since early November, and really we decided on the date in late October. There's no way we could have known Alabama would be playing for a national championship. I think we all agree, well, many of us hoped they would be. But so it's sheer coincidence, and because we had already done our legal notice, we decided to proceed, especially given that there are several other opportunities for the public to see this presentation. Huntsville Utilities employees do not receive any discount on their utilities. We all pay the same thing you all pay. We want to go ahead and dispel that rumor right now. Huntsville Utilities employees do not receive bonuses. We are public employees, and there are no bonuses. We do not estimate bills unless the meter is not accessible due to things like a locked fence gate or a dog on the premises, and the meter reader cannot get to the meter. If you don't believe your meter's being read properly, please contact us. Our last increase on electric retail rates was in 2011. It was not last year. Prior to that, it was 2002. We have some information on that. So we did not raise electric rates last year. It's also been said that we're more expensive than the deregulated states. Retail electric rates in deregulated states, which is 17 states in the country, are consistently and significantly higher than territorially regulated states like Alabama. And finally, every electric utility we are aware of charges availability fees or a minimum amount for service. So availability fees are not new. That's a utility industry reality, and I think even our investor-owned counterparts charge availability fees. So with that, I'd like to introduce our interim president CDO, Mr. Tony Owens, and he's going to run through the presentation.
All right, thank you, Joe, and appreciate everyone coming out tonight. And I know Joe mentioned it a minute ago about the apologize for the ball game thing and all that kind of stuff, but we will we'll try to get through this and hopefully be through by about 6:30. I have about 12 or 13 slides that I would like to go through, and after that we'll have questions. And I have most of my management team here with me tonight, and we'll be able to respond to any questions. So with that, we'll get started. Ron? Here's a little history on our rates. Huntsville Utilities rate history. Back in '02, we had a 5.5% rate increase, impacting availability and demand and energy charges, which you can see there it raised the availability $1.33, which took it up to $5 on availability. Prior to that, the increase was in 1987, which was 15 years. In 2011, we had another rate increase. It was 3.5 through all rate classes and demand and energy charges, and it took it from the $5.77 to $8.88, which is where the availability is now. Now, back in May, we made a proposal to the city council and, for another rate increase, which was $4.90 on the availability, and then $3.99 on small commercial. The council asked us to go back and revisit that and look at some alternatives. So we did. We heard what the council said. We heard what the public said, and we went back and looked through this. What we heard was any rate increase should be spread across all rate classes. The increases should be both on availability and also on the usage charge. Consideration should be given to the impacts on fixed and low income ratepayers, and then retain multiple usage tiers to support conservation. So we currently have 2 tiers. We have one for those that's below 1,400 kilowatt, and then we have another tier slightly higher that's above the 1,400 kilowatt. What we're proposing is across the board 2.75% adjustment. It's on availability, demand, and energy increases for residential, general services, commercial, industrial, and outdoor lighting. The residential customer impacts, what it equates to is about 29 cents on availability for the residential customer, which will take it from $8.88, which is, as I said, where it is now at $9.17. Our energy rate increase would be 0.00246 per kilowatt hour below the 1,400 kilowatt, and then the 0.00268 kilowatt per kilowatt for everything over 1,400. This gives you, this slide kind of gives you an idea of what it really means to you. 1,496 is our average customer. That's the kilowatt hours for the average customer. And what it basically equates to is about $4 a month. You can see the 145 is currently what you would pay for the 1496, and then it's going up to 14, or if it's approved, it would go up to 149.57 with our increase. You ask why the increase is needed. Our electric system, for operation and maintenance of the system, to ensure reliability of the system. You know, we're fortunate here in the fact that, you know, we have a growing system. The electric system, all three, electric, water, and gas are all growing. But every day that we add something new, we've got something that's getting older. And as the system grows and that type of thing, there's a lot of operation, a lot of maintenance expense associated with the electric system. So that operation and maintenance is something that goes up. Yearly material supplies, things of that nature are constantly going up. So we have to cover those costs. Another thing I mentioned up there too is the reliability of the system. We're recently, you can see there, Huntsville Utilities was awarded a diamond ranking, which is the highest ranking with an RP3 program through the American Public Power Association. What that means, it's just a list of metrics that electric distributors are looked at across the country. And it's, they look at the number of outages you have, how fast you recover from a storm or recover from an outage. They also look at reliability. There's just a lot of different metrics that they pay attention to and they monitor you on. And we're very proud of the fact that we received a diamond ranking, which is one of the highest rankings that you can get. Funding for all our expenses and things obviously comes from sales revenue. Our current sales revenue is dependent upon weather and, of course, customer behavior. In other words, how much you use. Supply material costs have increased steadily over time. I think the next slide there, we picked 2 or 3 different things just to kind of give you an idea of what we have to deal with, things that we use every day in our system. Concrete poles in 2010, you can see the price there. They've increased $225 a pole over this from 2010 to 2016. 2,000 foot reel cable, $560. You can see about a 13% increase. Bucket trucks, it's not just bucket trucks, it's other equipment. Back in 2010, a typical aerial unit like we used was about $167,000. Now they're over 200,000. And substation transformers, you can see the increase in those. In fact, I know we just bought one the other day, and I think it was a little over $500,000. This slide kind of gives you an idea of what we spend operation and maintenance per average customer as we're compared to other utilities in our area, and also the operation and maintenance cost per 1,000 kilowatts sold. Huntsville Utilities, our average customer, it looks like about $255, and our operation and maintenance per 1,000 kilowatts sold is about $9. So you can see how we compare to similar utilities, neighboring utilities, compared across the board with all of TVA and municipalities and co-ops. And see, we're in pretty good shape. We're kind of proud of that, but there's something else you have to think of when you look at something like this too. According to the chart there, we're doing about $255 per customer. You think, well, that's real good. But I think we're good, but I don't know that we're that good. I think what this chart is telling me is we need to probably be spending more money than what we actually do at times, you know, as far as maintenance on the system and operation of the system and doing some things that we need to improve and do a little better job on. But currently that's some cost, you know, compared to other systems. Other thing that we're confronted with that we have little to no control over, some of the unexpected costs is storms. And that's something that a lot of folks don't think about. When during a storm, of course, our function is to get out there and restore power as soon as we possibly can. And this area was from, as you recall, we had some storms back in November and December. Actually, we had 2 nights of it, on a Monday and a Tuesday night. And this was some tornado damage up in the Gurley area and Ryland Pike. And this particular storm event, most of it was on Tuesday night. And, I know that storm event cost us somewhere around $320,000. And, that's things that have to be paid for out of our rates. So, this slide, you get an idea of the three departments, electric, water, and gas. For every dollar that we take in on your power bill, approximately 85% of it goes back to TVA. Because we're paying for power, we're paying for that commodity cost. The 15% is what we operate the electric department off of. That's where we pay salaries, we do operation, maintenance, capital costs, you know, things of that nature associated with electric. We went ahead and threw the other two slides in there, were the three departments, and the three departments operate in one sense separately financially. And the water system, of course, 100% of all the revenue associated with the water system goes back into operating the water department. We have our own water plants and that type of thing, so we don't have to buy that commodity, you know, from someone else. Gas sales revenue, about 60–65% of the money taken in for gas goes back into operation of the system, and about 38–40% goes for the purchase of the commodity. This is just a list of some of the items funded by the rate increase. We have, our plans are for some substation improvements. You can see that's some of the substations, Boomtown, the one at the Southeast Water Plant. We're building a new delivery point, a substation in association with that facility. Redstone Gateway, County Line Road, another substation out at Madison Hospital, Northwest, and Sun Lake. Some other things that we fund with this rate increase, of course, is tree trimming. I know that's not always a popular subject and that kind of thing, but tree trimming helps tremendously with the reliability of our system and fire restoration. Distribution transformers, pole inspection and replacement. We have obviously a lot of aging infrastructure out in the system, and that's a continuous process of changing those poles out and that type of thing. And of course, just general improvements in development and service extensions in the system. This slide gives you an indication of where we how we stack up with other utilities around the southeast. For this is for 1,000 kilowatt hours. You can see Huntsville is 1,000 kilowatt hours is currently it's about $99.74, and if this local rate adjustment were approved, it would go to $102.49. But you can see where we are with the rest of the systems. I know the one I don't want to beat on Alabama Power, but I think you may have read it in the papers or AL.com or something. But Alabama Power just had a $6, I think it was a $6 increase to availability. Is that right, Ron? Just recently. So that would actually put them up around 130 for 1,000 kilowatts. Our projected timeline on this, and this is kind of where we've been and where we're going. You can see there, back in September, we had a rate adjustment to approval from TVA. Anything that we propose has to have TVA's approval, obviously. Of course, it has to have our board approval, has to have the city council approval. And so the approval process for this is multi-step, so kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing. Of course, tonight is our formal public hearing. The 12th, we will take it to the council. The 19th, we have a city council work session scheduled here, and then the 26th, city council vote. Again, if it's approved, it will go into effect in February. That pretty much concludes just the slides that we presented and that type thing. So we'd like to entertain questions now. I want to kind of introduce some folks right quick before we get started. Got John Olszewski with us, Mike Counts, Stacy Cantrell, one of our board members, Mr. George Moore, Ted Phillips is our CFO, and Ron Rosardi handles our rates and budgets and things like that. So they're on board tonight, and we'll just all kind of jump in and respond to your questions as we need to. Joe?
Okay, so if anybody would like to make a comment or ask a question, we do ask that you make your way to the mic so that the folks that are viewing on Facebook Live can hear you. Please speak into the mic and make it so also that your fellow attendees can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Gail Carter, 5006 Wayne Court, Huntsville, Alabama.
Thank you.
The ratings, is it between, is it $152 and $8.04? The hike?
No, ma'am. What are you talking about?
No,
I thought I read that
I can
on- I
respond to
thought I read
that.
that online.
What you read was the range that we made available that somebody that's attending here put out there for the public consumption. Basically, that was this slide.
Right here.
And that's just the different ways that it affects you depending on how much electricity you use. So on average, which is right there in the middle highlighted in yellow, our average customer uses almost 1,500 kilowatt hours. That's about $4 a month. So for most customers, it's gonna be around $4 a month. If you live in a really big house, then, you know, you could hit that $8 mark. Does that answer your question, ma'am? Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Ngozi Hediwamova, 7915 Valley Bend Drive. I have a comment really and a compliment too. And my suggestion, recommendation, compliment would be, why don't we look at alternative ways of generating electricity? I know we are limited in Huntsville as to how much you can produce per household. And I give an example, a city like Amsterdam, they have 16 cooperatives. And you can generate up to 80%. Some are doing 100% now from their individual units, houses. So if we did that same thing in Huntsville, that would drastically drive down your cost. I know your major cost is buying energy. That would help drive it down. The other aspect of that would be, it would create a lot of jobs in Huntsville, because there are a lot of people in that area that can maintain those, service those for individual homes. So that's my compliment, and that was my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And in regards to that, you know, we are a local power company in the TVA service area, and by contract, we do not generate electricity. So you as a customer, there are some opportunities for you to do that, but that's a pretty convoluted conversation, and it involves TVA directly. They have several programs for generation at that level. They don't discourage it. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, there's folks in the room here that are in that business. And I'm sure they would be more than happy to talk to you about that. But when it comes to Huntsville Utilities, we by contract purchase all of our power from TVA and are not currently in the generation business, nor can we be by contract.
Yeah, and of course, anything, if you want to do something, what we call behind the meter, you know, that's fine. But for several years, I know for a couple, 3 years, we've been looking at some different business models and things like that, so that we could, sometimes it would be to our advantage to try to have some type of generation, especially to offset some peaks, some low peaks. But it is something, but as Joe mentioned, we're very limited as to what we can do due to the power contract we have through TVA.
Can I follow up 1 minute?
Sure.
That would be, look, that was just a suggestion. And things like that, somebody needs to be exploring it, because down the road again, you're gonna come back for another rate increase. And this is a suggestion, something you can consider, something to, I'm one of those, I never believe or agree with it can be done or we can't do this because somebody's doing it. Somebody needs to be exploring this, and we are limited to 20% in Huntsville as individual homeowners. That's unacceptable.
I'm not clear that you are limited.
Yes, that's my finding. So if there's any change, that's not enough for anybody to invest in.
Well, let me respond to the looking into the opportunities. That's certainly something TVA is interested in. They have a whole division that's looking into what's commonly referred to as distributed energy. And that's where you have a lot more generation redundancy. You have smaller generation units closer to the end user. That's a much more efficient way of generating and using power. But we have a lot of big generation facilities that have been performing well for decades, and you, the customer, have invested a lot in that system, and so to move away from that is something that TVA will want to do very carefully. I am still not clear that TVA limits you to 20%. Huntsville Utilities certainly doesn't. As far as I know, by regulation, there's nothing that stops you from being net neutral, net zero, or perhaps even net positive.
It's not that positive.
Okay.
You want me to talk about GPP for a second?
Well, if you want to step to the mic and talk about that, this is Randy Buckner from Avian, and they're one of the more cutting edge companies we have in town relative to this type of technology. Randy, please.
I just wanted to put some clarity on the TVA's Renewable Energy, Solar Energy, Green Power Providers Program, GPP, sometimes referred to as. It's been going for a number of years. They will allow you to put solar systems on your property up to the amount of energy you consume in a year. So that's 100%. They will not let you go beyond that. And they buy, it's not behind the grid, it's not behind the meter, it's actually grid tied. So the system will actually tie in to where your meter is, and TVA, not Huntsville Utilities, will purchase all energy off the solar system immediately before your meter, and then it'll go right, mostly go into your meter, and you'll pay for it at retail. Your utility bill will show a consumption, and right underneath it, it'll show a generation, which will counter that consumption. So that's a brief description of GPP. It's a program for 2017, still at retail, so they'll pay you for everything you need.
Thank you very much, Randy. Yes, sir.
Lonnie M. 2305 Mount Vernon Road. The last time we were here was about a couple of months ago when the people asked that the raise not be voted on. This gentleman here asked, did you have a plan B? And last time we were here, you didn't have a plan B, and now you come up and you don't have a plan B now. That's point number one. Point number two, I'm on Social Security. There's a lot of people on Social Security. I just got a 3% raise, but they took it. Is it possible that some of you guys could take a cut in pay and be very American patriotic, for some of these raises? Because it's killing people like it. And it's been cold, man. It's been unseasonably cold. So that's just my input.
Yes, sir. Well, and just to respond to that, yes, we were here in April with a different proposal. It was a fee-based approach, and this is a rate-based approach, which is what council asked for. We are not presenting a plan B. We do have one, but that will be for our presentation to council. This is basically based on the input we got from the last presentation. With all that considered, what we've come up with, which is it's a rate-based approach. So your consumption and the power of reducing it still lies with you.
Yes, sir, and you're right. Back in, we did approach the council back in April, and we did not have a plan B. You're correct. And that's one thing the council asked us to do, to go back and review this, and we had a list of things that they wanted us to look into, which we did, and what we're presenting tonight actually is a plan B. Prior, the one in April, I think was $4.90, which was added to the availability, and so we went back and looked at a 2.75% across all rate classes, which only added 29 cents to the availability, and a slight increase on kilowatt hour on consumption. So this tonight is our plan B, and we think we heard the council and we heard the public loud and clear back then, and this is a proposal that we've come up with.
Mr. Cox.
Jerry Cox, 4029 Telstar Circle. A lot of talk when we have these rate increases is talking about the impact on people with fixed income. Well, I guess I'm one of them people. In fact, maybe I'm even worse off than fixed income, because with 2 increases in Medicare and my health insurance, I'm not fixed income, but declining
But what I've done is I've taken my average usage for the last 6 months. This is 2 old folks in a 3-bedroom house. And the 2.75% increase would result in an average of $2.57 a month for me. If that increase had been over the last six months, I would have had to pay an additional $2.57 a month. Now, I don't want to be like the people over in East Limestone that had power problems during this cold weather. You know, I may be on fixed income, but I want reliable electricity. I don't want my electricity going out in January and February, nor in July and August and all that. So I can, you know, I'm willing to pay the $2.57 a month increase that I'm going to be imposed on me in order to assure that this system keeps delivering me with the service that it's been delivering to me for 50 years here in Huntsville. I want to make sure that everyone understands that this rate increase was, and I want to know if I'm correct here, this rate increase was approved by the city council, the Huntsville City Council approved electric board. That's correct, right? The electric board is the city council.
The way I understand what you're saying is that the board that was appointed by
The
city
city
council did approve this recommendation.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, I do have one comment that I haven't heard anything about, but there was a rate increase on my December meter readings from 8.8 cents per kilowatt hour to 9.1 cents per kilowatt hour, which resulted in me paying $1 more increase in December. Was that a fuel adjustment from TVA, or what was that?
Yes, sir. That is the TVA fuel adjustment, which fluctuates.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that's correct. It is the fuel cost, but it's also, we have seasonal rates. So there are summer rates, there are winter rates, and we call them transition rates. But basically that's April, May, October, November are the transition months. But as Joe said, the fuel cost is primarily what drove your increase, but then it also went from transition rates, which are generally lower, to winter rates in December. So every November to December, you'll see your bill go up a little. Same happens in May to June. So as the seasons change, 3 times a year, you will see, or actually maybe a little bit more than that. As the seasons change, you will see increases and decreases, and then the fuel costs will be added on to that.
Right,
And just for clarity, that is a TVA rate that's passed directly through to you. Huntsville Utilities has no control over that fuel cost adjustment. That's going directly from TVA through us to you, the customer.
But, you know, just at bottom line, you know, being fixed income, a lot of my peers are fixed income or declining income, but we want reliable electric service. Huntsville Utilities has been providing me. I was affected by tornadoes back in '74, so I know the service that Huntsville Utilities provide. And the $2.57 is a reasonable increase to make sure that that service continues. And I appreciate Huntsville Utilities.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Doug Keel, 146 Delta Pine. Live out in the county, and as you and I discussed beforehand, primary purpose of my being here was that I wanted some clarity on the construction of fiber network and whether any of this proposed increase was related to that, because those of us who live in the county are very likely not to see the benefit of that. And we didn't want to be in a position of subsidy or subsidizing something of benefit to the city. And I've asked the question several times of several people and never really gotten clarity on that. So just while we're in this format,
Yes, sir.
if you would please readdress that, I would appreciate it.
And what I said to Mr. Keel, and I'm going to hand the mic over to our CFO to get a little deeper explanation for you, but that project is already funded. And this increase is not associated with that, but Ted, if you'll expand on that.
Sure. So the fiber project, just like Joe said, is already funded, and we've used reserves from the electric to fund that project, but then it will be paid back because there's a revenue stream that follows that.
Sure.
So we already have a contract with Google, which is a 20-year contract, which we'll be getting about $7 to $7.5 million a year from Google. We think that the fiber project is about a $60 million project, so it's around a 10-year payback. And then we also have the city and Huntsville Utilities, so we'll be using that fiber as well. So we'll be funding that internally. Both electric, water, and natural gas will be using that because our systems will be running off of that fiber system. And then as the fiber system gets built out over the next 3 years, we anticipate that there'll be other customers that want to lease fiber from us as well. Now we don't expect, I personally would love it if we had another Google that came in and wanted to cover a whole area like the city of Huntsville and would fund us $7.5 million. We're not planning for that, but we do think that there will be some additional funding that will help that. And we actually feel like as years goes on, that excess revenue from our fiber system will help us to not have as many electric rate increases in the future as well.
You mentioned reserves. I have to ask, if you're partially funding that from reserves, how much of this increase is replenishing those reserves?
So none of it, because the fiber project itself will replenish the reserves.
Okay. Second question, not related to that. Thank you. The chart that you've got on 1,000 kilowatt hours, how many entities like Huntsville Utilities are buying from TVA?
Currently, it's 154 local power companies, varying in size. On any given day, we're number 4 or 5 in terms of number of meters, number of customers.
Understood. Would your chart be more relevant if it actually contained those versus containing Nashville and Memphis and markets that are not even related to TVA?
What we wanted to do there, and we have some additional information, but we were trying to, oftentimes some of the power companies that you see represented on that first chart with the fewer companies on it, represent a lot of utilities that people refer to when they're commenting on, say, our Facebook thread. So here are all the local power providers in the TVA service area.
Now that's where we fall with availability charges, Joe.
Yeah, so
See,
do we have a rate one?
that's where we fall as far as our adder to the kilowatt charge above what we pay TVA.
So are the ones on the left-hand side of that chart significantly more effective in how they're managing their plant and their distribution and all of that? Or are they ignoring upgrades to facilities to improve that?
It's somewhat of a trade-off because you can either recover some of your cost either through availability or through the usage charge.
Right.
If you go back and if you look at us as far as our availability charge, what our new proposal is $9.17, and you see where we fall far to the left. Where you look at the other 153 local power companies in the TVA service area, you see the average is 16, and you can see what some of them are extremely high. In our first proposal, for a rate increase, we wanted to put most of it on the availability because it takes the weather variable out of it. But we didn't, but you can see, so our availability is low. But if you go to the next slide, you'll see where we fall somewhere in the middle as far as what we call an adder, which is what we add to the, what we're actually paying TVA for the kilowatt hour. So it works itself out, we're,
I just.
no, I can't stand here and tell you that we're just a lot smarter
That's-
than the other
no, that's
153.
fine, I mean, this was the handout.
Yes, sir.
And based purely upon this, it seemed as if it was a question that was being, maybe unintentionally, but avoided.
Yes,
So I thought it needed to be.
Yes, sir. That's
brought
fine.
forward. Thank you.
yes, sir.
Anyone else? Ms. Reed?
Good evening, thank you for public input. I may not be allowed to speak, but I'm going to speak. This is public input. Thank you.
Of course
Anyway,
you're allowed to speak.
I have several questions. The gentleman was right before, and I've been in here, people call me about this availability charge. It didn't used to be on our utility bills, and remember, people were asking me why all of a sudden is availability charge. And I hope you've explained it tonight, because they've been calling me and I brought
I
it to
can
council.
explain that right now. We've explained it publicly several times, but just to clarify, we used to send out a postcard bill. Your services weren't itemized like they are now. So the availability charge was always there, it just wasn't spelled out for you. As far as I know, we've been charging an availability charge going back for, I don't know, how far back would you guys say? Since we became an electric utility, so 76 some odd years. We've just never, we had a postcard bill, we couldn't break that charge out for you, and now we do. It's not a new charge.
Okay, 2 or 3 more questions. I will tell you, when he brought that to the city council meeting, it was in August, 2 weeks before the election, when you tried to push a $2 something raise through. And the council then voted on it because an election was coming up. That's why we postponed it. Everybody was wondering about the date on it. Well, yeah, because I asked that question.
No, ma'am, but what happened was in April,
It was August, sir, the last time that you brought it to the city council.
no ma'am, it was April.
Go back and look at the city council.
I don't have to go back, it was in April.
I was hearing question why they put that off.
Ma'am,
Anyway, never mind.
they voted it down, they voted against it,
I know,
and that was in April.
I do know, in August.
All right. Your next
Anyway,
question?
it don't matter. It's not important. I was told that you are paying 60 million, this raise increase is 60 million for fiber, Google that we're having put into the city. They already voted on that months ago. And smart meters that's coming in, are they coming in? And we were paying 60 million for smart meters. Y'all can answer that in a minute. And then I was told that there's money out here for seniors, 11 point something million dollars for people that needed the money to help pay their utility bill. Y'all never keep stressing that and trying to tell the public about what really is going on. And of course, the people, public and people, employees and everybody puts it all on me to bring it up, and I will if I can. But anyway, explain that to the public, and then I want to talk to you about the tree trimming. When you get through with this.
Okay, let me see if I can remember your 3 questions.
Fiber, first.
The first question was, what from this increase will be used to fund fiber? We just talked to Mr. Keel about that. That's not how this is not how that project's being funded. That project's already been funded. And then you asked the question about smart meters. Now, we are moving towards smart meter technology, but we have meter budgeted items in our budget every single year. And most meters you buy now as a utility company are smart meter compatible. They just don't make the old strictly mechanical meters anymore. So as we've been rotating the old meters out, we've been slowly getting ready for the move to smart meters. And that's just a regular course of our capital plan. Yes, ma'am, we are moving in that direction. I don't have a price tag for you because I don't think we broke it out that way because we have not begun deploying those meters yet. It'll probably be about mid-year next year or this year before we even start seeing those meters deployed. And then your last question was, please refresh my memory. The grant that we were awarded from TVA is not for utility bills. It's for deep energy retrofits for people who meet the HUD low income criteria. And they also have to have electric as their primary heat source. So it was a grant that we were awarded from TVA. At the moment, we've helped about.
On the chart.
There we go. So this is what you're talking about, Ms. Reed. We were awarded that grant in 2015. And to date, we're better than halfway in. We've got 786 customers that we've helped. We hope to get to 1,104. We may even go a bit past that. And what this does for those customers is it makes them more efficient, which should reduce their usage and therefore their bill.
Did you let me have that for a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with those homes, that it's predominantly HVACs, bringing it up to standard. It's insulation and windows. And the model was set up that by TVA to get to 25%. And when you got to 25%, you had to move on to get more homes done. So what I'm sharing with you is Councilman Keith asked me to run some numbers on a couple homes. And we took a home in his district, and we took a home in Dr. Robinson's district. We took a home in his district that was about 1,200 square feet, and it used a certain amount of kilowatts. Its bill was about $120. We took a home, 1,200 square feet now, and we took a home up in brand new, a 2-year-old home up here in Green Mountain, and it used the same amount of kilowatts, and it was about 3,700 square feet, and its bill was $120. And then we did the HEAM Extreme Energy Makeover on the home for the Great American in the older home, 50-year-old home in Councilman Keith's district, and the bill a year later was in the 40s. So we saw an $80 drop in that. Now, I don't want you all to go check all that, because I'm going to tell you, in most cases, HEAM energy was goodness. But there were a few cases where it actually went up. You say, well, how did that happen? Well, in fairness to those folks, the HVAC didn't even work. Okay, I mean, so when they got a new one, they turned it on, and it was using electricity. So there was goodness, but just so you know, they got out of the cold. The house wasn't cold anymore, and then we did insulation and we did windows. So this program was an idea of ours because we have this. We don't care. We don't want to help. So we, with a consultant, wrote a grant that won. And only 2 outfits won, us and Knoxville. Just 2 out of those 154 you saw, just 2. And we were one of them. And we won, and originally we were just trying to win 3 or 4 million. And we won 5, and they called back and said, can you do 7? And then they called back and said, can you do 11.7? So of those $7 million, $6 million of it's in Councilman Keith's district. And so that's really a good news story, and I appreciate you allowing us to talk about it. And we still got some more way to go. So when this one's done, we'll be looking for the next one. We don't know what we don't know. We just had an opportunity handed to us, and we chased it, and we got it. So go back to you, Joe. Thank you.
Ms. Reed, you said you had a couple more questions.
I always want to bring up the tree cutting. I know that costs a lot, and that's an expense to you all. But we had a business, and we asked 3 years for this tree to be taken up. And they cut the limbs back 3 times when we asked them to be taken up. So I could find you and help you a way to save money on the tree cutting in this city. Yeah, that needs looking into. Why would you keep trimming them back when you ask them to take them up? Won't have to come back out there anymore. But anyway, y'all can deal with that some other time. And I want to ask you 2 things, one more thing. Is it true that your departments are installing fiber? Those trucks that you see climbing the lines, I've been told that 2 departments that you all have are installing the fiber in the city. I don't know if that's true or not, but.
I'm not really sure I would word it exactly that way, but we do have crews that are installing fiber. Yes, ma'am, that's part of a large project that was put into action last February, and construction began roughly in August.
Okay, so I know people seeing the cars and, the trucks all over the city, so I just wanted to see if that's a part of
Yeah,
something.
a lot of the work though you see is what's called make ready. And, you'll see trucks and it's, diversified and they're a contractor that is, actually going through the system and they're working for us. And they're making improvements and making room on the poles and replacing cross arms and things like that, where we're getting ready to maybe install fiber. But it's also doing some other things too. What it's doing is it's making our system better, the electric system. It's improvements with our equipment, the existing equipment on the poles.
I'm not fighting against utilities, I think you do a great job. One more little question, and I'll let you go. To meet the requirements of our growing community, just think how much we're gonna have to do when we tear the Madison Square Mall down out there. With all that development coming down, how much the millions of dollars do you think that's gonna happen? Think about that. It says economic development. Guys and friends and neighbors, that's gonna cost you a fortune. So economic development, tearing the big mall down and all that master plan I've seen up there, somebody has to pay for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
My concern on this rate increase is for the elderly people. We got a big raise on Social Security, 0.03%. We really didn't get anything because our Medicaid went up. So what is this rate increase? How is it going to affect the people in paying their rent, buying their medicine, and buying food?
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, it's the business that we work in. Being a municipally owned, not-for-profit utility, we have to make our ends meet, and the materials costs have increased significantly.
So
Now, I want to reiterate, this is only the third time since 1988 that we are asking for an electric rate increase. We would not ask for it if the company did not need it to meet all of our obligations and continue to provide the service that the community expects.
Sir, I retired from Huntsville Utilities, and I know how many rate increases, and I know about Huntsville Utilities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel?
Hey, Daniel Tate, representing Energy Alabama. Just want to see if you could comment on the total amount of revenue you guys think that this rate increase would actually bring to the organization, and also if you could talk about how much you think that would actually, maybe a projection on how long you'll be able to go before another rate increase is actually needed, maybe years in the future.
So Daniel, I want to get you the right number, so we've got that.
Awesome.
It's a little over $13 million is what we planned that this rate will generate. Now, because this is all on the usage, depends on what the usage is. So if we had several months of weather like we just had this weekend, usage would be up. Last November, we had November 15 was one of the mildest Novembers we have on record. So we are held a little bit ransom to what the weather does. So, and then we don't anticipate needing another rate increase for at least 2 more years. So we would even be considering one for 2 more years, then we would be looking into when the next rate increase needs to be.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Joseph Lee, 5104 Sunrise Trail, Huntsville. I just have just a couple of questions and comments. And I'm reading from your handout here. Funding for all expenses come from sales revenue. Sales revenue is dependent on weather and customer behavior. Those two. Now, I want to compliment you on the HIM program. Very, very wonderful program. I am standing not to talk against the rate increase, but I'm standing to talk about weather and customer behavior. I represent an area in Huntsville where we really need the HIM program. And that's the neighborhood built in the late 1950s, Eppington Heights. And because of gas, and this neighborhood, 420 homes, was overlooked. And I heard you earlier talking about the amount of cost for certain size homes and how much they was paying for utilities. And in Eppington Heights, because of windows and installation and other issues, we have people paying as much for their rent, the utility bill as much for their rent. Now, again, I have no difficulty with the rate increase. I have no difficulty with anything. The only difficulty I have is that there are people who really has to choose between eating, or getting medicine, or paying utility bill. They have to pay the utility bill. So your revenue, you're generating revenue, and there's nothing wrong with generating revenue, don't get me wrong. But we have people who, either the city, and you being a public utility, or the utility or someone need to help the gap, fill the gap. There's a gap here in terms of the Extreme program, the HIM program. We have a gap, and it's a good program. So we want to tweak the program a little bit to address people that really need this particular service. And I really appreciate anything you can do in that regard.
Thank you. We'll let John comment on this.
First of all, sir, I know you know this, and I'm not talking over you, I'm talking with you. This was a contract. We were not allowed to give any help to anybody that had gas heat. We weren't allowed to. And trust me, I would have told you when I walked into this, I would have thought I was going to help you with that, and I can't help you with that. And we went all the way to top in TVA, and it's a grant that was won for electric only. But I think
there's a slide.
well, yeah, and I just wanted to share something because I think this kind of goes on, and you know, we probably don't do a very good job telling the story, and shame on us. There's a program we have called Project Share that people are allowed to put in a certain amount of dollars every month that they can have it taken out of their pay. They can, those that have the money and are feeling giving, and we only have 2% people, 2% of the community that actually puts into it. But it helps about 800 families a year. But let me go farther. We coordinate with 45 local agencies, churches, nonprofits, civics groups. We go through a great program called CAA, Community Action Agency. We work with them. Over the last 3 years, we've invested, local agents have paid $8.4 million in utility assistance. Average agency grant is $284. And some low-income families actually receive 3 times a year, approximately $852. I would tell you that agency and us together, it's about $2.5 million a year, plus or minus, that are helping low incomes. It's not helping everybody, God bless, we're not, but we're getting after it. And I also want to tell you about another program we do that kind of goes unnoticed as well. You know, there's those that are out there trying to live and trying to make it happen, and then there's another world out there that actually runs from us. They don't pay their bill and they leave. They leave. And we call that debt collection. Last year we collected $800,000 of chasing the folks that left us hanging, and I'm telling you, that's a different category of folk, okay, than those that are having troubles meeting their payments. So, for what I'm saying is, it's 800 grand there. That's